In this chapter, you're going to learn how to truly transform your life at its core. You'll realize that everything you've experienced so far is something you've created yourself. Not as punishment, not as karma, but as a direct reflection of your own energy. Most people are still waiting for some miracle, a sign, or something outside of them to pull them out of their current situation. But the hard truth is, you don't have to wait for anything. Everything you need is already inside you, and you are the only one who can release it. You didn't come into this world to beg for things. You came here to remember that you are the sign. This guide doesn't ask you to just believe. It asks you to observe. It challenges you to see everything around you with new eyes. Because reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you. If you can shift your energy, everything will change. This isn't blind faith. It's spiritual science. It's the law behind everything that exists. It's forbidden knowledge, and once you tap into it, you'll start creating your own miracles. Chapter 1. The Origin of Deception. Since the beginning, humans have wondered why life is the way it is. Why are some people born into wealth while others struggle from the start? Why do some seem to have all the luck, while others fight their whole lives without ever finding peace? We've been taught that fate is already written, that we must just accept whatever happens to us, that life is tough, and that only a select few can achieve abundance, love, or happiness. Over generations, we've been told that reality is something external, something that just happens, a path we must walk whether we like it or not. And so, many have lived as passive spectators of their own lives, reacting to what happens, waiting for things to change on their own, or praying for some higher power to grant their wishes. But buried deep in this teaching was a trap. It wasn't meant to help us, it was meant to keep us dependent, preventing us from realizing our own creative power. Because if reality is already set in stone, what can we do but endure? If life is just a test, then all we can do is resist and wait for it to end. And if everything depends on outside forces, then we stop being the creators of our lives and become victims. That's where the deception begins. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that reality isn't something that happens to us, it's something that happens through us. What we call life is simply a reflection of what we hold in our minds, not just our superficial desires, but our deepest beliefs. The universe isn't a blind machine or a judge. It's a perfect mirror. It doesn't judge, punish, or reward. It just reflects. In that reflection, there is no morality or guilt, only frequencies, vibrations, thoughts that become actions, emotions that become experiences, and beliefs that shape every step we take. Metaphysics, the forgotten science, misunderstood and feared by many, tells us that everything is mind, that the universe is a manifestation of consciousness, and that what's outside us is connected to what's inside. What we project from within will inevitably shape our reality. For centuries, this wisdom was hidden. People feared what humanity might do if we realized we are more than just physical bodies. If we remembered that our minds aren't just containers for thoughts, but powerful tools that can change our reality, shape matter, alter outcomes, and create paths where there were once only barriers. Instead of teaching us to think for ourselves, we were taught to obey. Instead of encouraging us to explore our power, we were made to fear making mistakes. And so, what started as a being capable of shaping its own destiny turned into someone who doubts, fears, and asks for permission to live. But even in this darkness, some people sensed that something was wrong. That life can't just be a series of tests and sacrifices. That abundance isn't just for a few, that love doesn't have to hurt, and that destiny isn't a sentence, but a choice. Forbidden Metaphysics isn't just another philosophy, it's a whole new way of seeing life, one that's not based on blind hope, superstition, or self-deception. It's the deep understanding that everything we experience is a result of what we truly believe. In the next chapters, you'll start to see what has always been in front of you, but what few dared to notice. Doors will open, and you'll remember what's been forgotten. you'll realize that true power isn't about changing the world. It's about changing the way you see and experience it. Because once you do that, everything else will begin to change by itself. Chapter 2. The Invisible Reflection. What you project without realizing it. Sometimes it's not life closing in on you, but the way you're seeing it. They say when something keeps happening over and over, it's not bad luck. It's a reflection, an invisible pattern that keeps showing what you don't want to see. Some people go through life thinking the world is against them, that fate plays cruel tricks, and that others always let them down. But what they don't realize is that it's not the world fighting them. It's their own energy, quietly sending out a message that the universe follows without question. Life's mirror never lies. It just reflects what you put out. If you often think things like, "I'm not good at this," "nobody appreciates me," or "everything is harder for me than for others," you're shaping your own reality with those thoughts. And the universe responds with, "So be it." It's subtle. You may not always notice it, and it might not make sense at first. Until one day, someone treats you with the same indifference you treat yourself, or a door closes when you were hoping it would open, or a promise breaks just when you stopped believing you could keep it. That's when it all starts to make sense. The universe doesn't react to your words, it reacts to your energy. The strongest energy is the belief deep inside you. Many people think that God punishes them, but how could a creator of love punish anyone? In the Old Testament, Job lost everything without doing anything wrong, but in the midst of his suffering he said, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." Job 13:15. What Job understood, and what many don't, is that it wasn't about punishment, it was about transformation. Real faith, not faith you can negotiate with. Life doesn't punish, it reflects. But because we've been taught to fear, we often prefer to believe in rewards and punishments, because it's easier to blame something outside ourselves than look inward. It's simpler to say, "This happened to me because of bad luck," than to admit that maybe it was the thoughts of unworthiness, guilt, or insecurity that you've been carrying. One day, a frustrated woman sat down to talk with a wise elder. She told him everything in her life was going wrong, that she felt like the universe was punishing her. The elder calmly asked, "What do you think of yourself when no one is listening?" "That I have no value," she replied, tears in her eyes. That was the truth. It wasn't that others were making her feel invisible. She was vibrating at a frequency that made her feel unworthy of being seen. The mind is like a fertile field. Whatever you plant there will grow, whether it's doubt or certainty. If you believe life is tough, every day will feel like a struggle. If you think love always hurts, you'll attract relationships that confirm that belief. And if you think money only comes through suffering, your reality will be filled with bills, debts, and endless effort. But if you decide to change your vibration, even if it feels fake at first, something will start to shift, not from the outside, but from within. There's a mystery that few people accept, and it's this. Karma isn't a judge or punisher. It's a perfect, immediate, and fair reflection. When you focus on scarcity, you'll experience lack in your life. When you speak badly about others, your life will surround you with people who do the same. When you feel like nothing ever goes right, you'll unintentionally sabotage yourself to prove that belief. Most people don't see this because they don't realize what they're sowing with their thoughts, or what they're building with their complaints. They don't see that they're ordering their reality every time they say, "That's just how I am. This always happens to me." The problem isn't what happens to you. The problem is what you believe to be true. One day, a young man wandered through a village saying out loud, "I'm a disaster. Nothing ever goes right for me. Everything is hard." An elder who overheard him stopped and asked, "Would you invite someone into your home who insults your mother, destroys your things, and leaves trash everywhere?" "Of course not," the young man replied. "Then why do you allow those thoughts to live in your mind?" The mind creates, but the soul sustains. As long as you see yourself as incomplete or broken, the world around you will reflect that. That's why when something repeats in your life, don't see it as a curse. See it as a message, a reflection, a sign that there's something inside you that hasn't changed yet. Something the universe keeps showing you with love, until you finally notice it. And when you do notice it and stop fighting the reflection, you can begin to transform yourself. That's when everything around you will start to change, because it was never really out there. It was always inside you. Chapter 3. Money doesn't make judgments. It follows your vibe. For a long time, people have believed that money rewards the righteous, that it comes as a prize for sacrifice, and that it stays away from those who live in deceit or selfishness. We've heard that poverty makes you noble and that wealth must be earned. But the reality is, money doesn't care about morality or human judgments. It responds to your energy. Over the years, many have worked hard, put in long hours, and been dedicated. Yet they still struggle, living paycheck to paycheck, counting coins, feeling guilty. Meanwhile, others, who don't seem to be doing much different, end up with wealth and opportunities in ways that seem easy or even unfair. So, what's going on? Is it unfair? Is it just luck? Or is there a law behind it? If you pay attention, you'll see a pattern. Those who treat money as a friend tend to have abundance. Those who see it as a burden or something rare seem to always struggle with it. It doesn't matter how hard you work or how deserving you think you are. Money, like everything else in life, doesn't respond to words, pleas, or hard work. It responds to energy. And energy can't be faked. It has to be real. Let's imagine two people walking down the same street. One goes into a store, buys something without checking the price, and feels thankful for what they have. The other, at the same counter, frowns, feels anxious, and worries about how little money they have left. The difference isn't in their wallets, it's in their energy. One feels confident, the other feels scarce. Your energy shows up in the smallest things, like how you tip, how you talk about money, or how you feel when paying bills. You can say, "I am abundant," but if you feel fear or lack behind those words, your message gets canceled out. In the Bible, before multiplying the loaves and fishes, Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you because you have already heard me." There was no doubt, no pleading, no conditions, just certainty. That's called vibrating with faith. And faith, as we'll see, isn't just about religion. It's about a frequency of absolute belief. When someone speaks from a place of scarcity, everything around them responds the same way. Money seems hard to come by. Payments get delayed. Opportunities are blocked. Not because of divine punishment, but because the universe is a neutral mirror. It reflects exactly what you project onto it. This happens even when your mind says one thing and your heart feels another. Some people say, "I want to get out of debt. I want more money." But the underlying feeling is one of struggle, lack, and worry. That's what the universe picks up and reflects back. It doesn't matter how many times you repeat a positive affirmation. If your body tenses up when you think about money, or if your dominant emotion is fear, that's the signal the universe gets and reflects back to you. Hidden in stories like these are real truths, like the story of a young man who lost his job and wandered through the city with his head down. He saw a child playing with a cardboard box like it was treasure. In that moment, he understood that abundance isn't about what you have, it's about how you see it. And once he changed his perspective, his life began to change. Another story happens in a busy market. A woman smiles as she counts out her coins and buys a bouquet of flowers. She doesn't complain about the price. She doesn't distrust the vendor. She buys with joy, honoring the exchange. Right next to her, a man complains about a loose bill. He talks badly about the system and looks at everything with suspicion. Both buy the same thing, but only one is in tune with the energy of money. It's not about being positive all the time or pretending challenges don't exist. It's about understanding that money, like everything else, responds to your dominant energy. And that energy doesn't change with words alone. It changes with your inner transformation, your shift in perception, and a deep decision. Most people have been taught to relate to money from a place of fear, guilt, or struggle, as if money is a prize for those who sacrifice the most. But the universe doesn't work with rewards or punishments. It only responds to the energy you put out, and that energy is called frequency. The farmer's faith isn't in the words he says, it's in how he plants the seeds. Just like the field returns what is sown, life returns what is vibrated. Money doesn't care if you're a saint or a sinner, it only follows your energy. And once you change your frequency, you change your life. Chapter 4. Karma doesn't punish. It only reflects for generations. Karma has been seen as a form of divine justice, like an invisible scale that keeps track of every action and returns it multiplied. Many people grew up thinking that if they did something wrong, life would somehow charge them for it. And if they did something good, they'd eventually get a reward, as some kind of spiritual refund. But the truth is much simpler and more powerful. Karma doesn't punish or reward. It simply reflects. In the heat of an argument at home, one person might angrily say, "You always play the victim." The other responds just as strongly, "You never admit your mistakes." Voices get louder and old wounds open up. But what neither of them realizes is that they aren't really fighting each other. They're fighting their own reflection. What one person sees in the other is often something they don't want to see in themselves. That's true karma. Every time someone acts out of resentment, they're not punishing the world. They're creating more reasons to feel hurt. Every time someone says, "Everything always goes wrong for me," they're not calling in bad luck. They're reinforcing their victim mindset. The universe simply reflects whatever energy they put out, without any judgment. Karma doesn't judge. It only reflects. Take a woman who has carried the belief for years that she doesn't deserve love. She's been told she's too intense, too cold, or too complicated, and over time, she accepts these ideas as truth. And so, every relationship she enters confirms those beliefs. Not because fate is punishing her, but because karma is showing her exactly what she believes about herself. As it says in the book of Proverbs, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." It doesn't say, "as it will be," or "as it might be." It says, "as it is." What's held inside, whether it's a thought, an emotion, or a belief, doesn't stay hidden. It projects out into the world, and life reflects it back. Karma doesn't wait for a future life to balance things out. It operates right here and now, in how someone speaks to themselves, how they react to pain, and how they view the world. Some people think that if they give a lot, help others all the time, or try to be good people, life will eventually return that kindness in the form of success, love, or peace. But if their giving comes from a place of need, from seeking approval, or from fear of not being good enough, the universe doesn't reflect the action itself. It reflects the energy behind it. So, those who give from a place of lack end up receiving more lack. Those who love from a place of emptiness attract relationships that leave them feeling unfulfilled. Those who sacrifice too much for others find themselves exhausted and unappreciated, not because of some injustice, but because karma works as a mirror, showing them exactly what they're putting out. A man walks down the street, suspicious of everyone he meets. He believes everyone has hidden motives, and he mistrusts looks, smiles, and even silence. And sure enough, he finds betrayal, disappointment, and reasons to confirm his beliefs. But it's not the world betraying him. It's his own distrust, amplified by karma, showing him exactly what he expects to see. It's hard to accept that life isn't against anyone because that means there's no one to blame. It's uncomfortable to realize that no one's punishing you from above because that means you've been holding the chains yourself. But it's also liberating because without punishment, there's no condemnation. Without rewards, there's no waiting. There's just reflection. And when you change what's inside, everything around you changes too. Karma is like a shadow. It's always there. In the decisions you don't make, the patterns that repeat, the things left unsaid, and the thoughts you secretly hold. But it's not a punishment. It's an opportunity. It's a sign pointing toward transformation. And when you see it in the right way, even pain can become a guide instead of an enemy. A woman quietly says to herself, "I always get the hardest part." She repeats it without thinking, as if it's a part of her story. And each day, her life seems to adjust to that script, not because the universe wants her to suffer, but because that belief is like a command, and karma, as a faithful messenger, obeys. But if one day she changes that script, if she starts saying, "Now things are starting to get better," karma hears that too and adjusts. Karma isn't about morality, good intentions, or what you think you deserve. It's about what you truly believe deep down, what you vibrate with, and what you hold without doubt. And that's the best news. If you don't like the reflection, you don't have to wait for another life, eternal punishments, or divine intervention. All you need to do is look within and change what you hold inside. Chapter 5. Money is not a reward or punishment. For centuries, people have had a complicated relationship with money. Some see it as a blessing, others think it's a source of corruption. Some believe it's the root of all evil, while others chase it like it's the key to salvation. But few really understand what money truly is. Money doesn't judge, it doesn't reward the good or punish the bad, and it doesn't come as something you earn. Money simply responds. Take, for example, a woman who works hard from dawn till dusk. She does everything she's supposed to do, is kind, responsible, and self-sacrificing. But her money never seems to stretch. Meanwhile, a man who doesn't do much seems to have everything. She wonders, why not me? She feels life isn't fair and something must be wrong. But what she doesn't realize is that both are getting exactly what their energy attracts. Money doesn't care about morality. It cares about vibration. In the parable of the talents, Jesus talks about a master who gives different amounts of money to 3 servants. One, out of fear, buries his treasure in the ground. When the master returns, there's nothing to show for it. The punishment wasn't for doing something evil, but for doing nothing, living in fear. That's how money works. It's not a judge, but a mirror. If the energy around it is fear, money runs away. If it's trust, it flows freely. There was a time when many people believed that hard work automatically meant wealth. The more you worked, the more you earned. But that's not always the case. Some people work exhausting jobs every day and barely make ends meet, while others, who believe money comes easily, never seem to lack. It's not that the world is unfair. It's that the law is precise. Money doesn't care how many hours you've worked, whether you've been kind or greedy. The only thing it recognizes is your internal state. If your state is full of lack, money won't stick around. Take a young man who says every day that money is hard to get, that it never lasts, and that it always slips away. No matter how much he earns, whenever something gets better, a new expense or emergency pops up. It's not bad luck, it's a pattern. The universe is simply reflecting back what he's vibrating. One day he sees a beggar on a street corner. He gives the beggar some coins, but instead of thanking him, the beggar grumbles, "Money never stays with me." The giver stops, not because of the words, but because of the energy behind them. That belief, that feeling, is what built the beggar's reality. It wasn't the system or luck. It was a belief held so strongly that it became his truth. Money doesn't respond to need, it responds to your mindset. And that mindset isn't changed by repeating empty words, but by changing how you feel about money. A grateful heart opens doors, but not forced gratitude or gratitude with an agenda. True gratitude comes when you realize you've always had something, even if you didn't see it. Those who are thankful for every penny see it grow. Those who complain about every bill just make it heavier. Some see expenses as losses, others as part of the flow. Some save from fear, others from trust. Some groan when paying, others do it with love. And that's how money knows where to go. It's not random, it's a law. Money is energy. It doesn't have a will of its own, it's not biased, but it has one constant. It reflects exactly the energy it's met with. So, changing your relationship with money isn't about working harder or asking for more. It's about changing how you think, feel, and speak about it. The prophet Isaiah once said, "You've spoken harshly against me, says the Lord. Yet you ask, what did we say?" He continues, "You've said, It's pointless to serve God. What's the point of keeping His commands if we just suffer? In other words, you spoke from a place of complaint and pain, not from faith. The same goes for money. We push it away when we curse it, block it when we fear it, and limit it when we see it as an enemy. If you want money to be your ally, you first need to align with yourself. Trust that you deserve it. Feel comfortable with its presence, and stop repeating things that push it away. Money doesn't punish, it doesn't answer prayers, and it doesn't respond to pleas. It only comes to those who vibrate in harmony with it, and that harmony isn't something you wait for, it's something you choose. Chapter 6. Faith is not religion. It's inner certainty. Since we were kids, we've been taught that faith means believing in something without evidence, that we must trust in what's invisible, what's unattainable, and what will happen if it's God's will. But no one really taught us about the kind of faith that's not just spoken in prayers, but shown in our actions, not just declared in words, but felt throughout the body. True faith isn't a belief system or a doctrine. It's a silent yet powerful energy that can transform your reality from the inside out. Imagine a mother tucking her child into bed, not knowing how she'll provide for him tomorrow, but still smiling and offering love. She doesn't have any external proof that things will be okay, but something deep inside tells her everything will work out. That is faith. Science calls it conviction. Quantum physics calls it wave function collapse. The soul just knows it. It's not about religion. It's a universal law that goes beyond beliefs and cultures. Think about a child standing up for the first time. His legs wobble, but he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't question if he can do it. He doesn't compare himself to others, and he doesn't expect failure. He just gets up and starts walking because, in his mind, failure isn't even an option. That's the purest form of faith. The faith we all had before anyone told us we needed it. Faith is energy that removes uncertainty. It's the force that declares, "It is," before it even happens. It's the deep belief in something being true even before you can see it. Faith isn't about repeating words. It's about having such a strong belief that the universe has no choice but to respond. Imagine a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, having lost almost everything: her family, her job, her health. Others might feel sorry for her, thinking she's given up, but inside, she still has this fire. She doesn't know exactly how or when, but she knows she will overcome. She doesn't wait for it. She believes it, feels it in every part of her being. That inner strength, that's true faith. Jesus made it clear. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you could tell a mountain to move, and it would move. He didn't say to pray for the mountain to move or to wait for a sign. He said, speak with certainty and command it with your spirit. That's the kind of faith that creates, the kind that doesn't beg, but vibrates with certainty. At some point, we all confuse faith with hope. Hope is waiting for something to change. Faith is knowing it already has, even if you can't see it yet. Hope is tied to time. Faith transcends it. When we talk about miracles, it's not about divine intervention for no reason. The real miracle happens when a person aligns with such a pure, powerful frequency that reality starts to shift in their favor, whether it's healing, unexpected opportunities, or positive changes at times when everything seemed lost. These aren't just coincidences. They're the result of what's been vibrated into existence. And this is where people divide. Some wonder if things will ever change, while others act as if they already have. This isn't arrogance. It's certainty. Not delusion, it's alignment. There's a story found in many cultures. The wanderer who crosses the desert guided by a voice only they can hear. The warrior who enters battle knowing victory is certain. The healer who sees health in a sick body before the symptoms disappear. What they all share isn't logic. It's a kind of faith that rises from deep within, like an underground river, silent but unstoppable. Many people pray with their words, but doubt in their hearts. They say they believe, but their energy vibrates with uncertainty. They ask, but they don't believe they deserve to receive. That mismatch blocks the flow of faith. True faith isn't what you say. It's what you feel deep inside. As Jesus said in Mark 11:24, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." He didn't say, "Believe you'll receive it someday." He said, "Believe you've already received it." There's a big difference between waiting for something and already knowing it's yours. The person who says, "I will have it," is still waiting. The person who says, "It's already mine," has crossed over into a new way of being. That's the difference between wishing and creating. One day someone stops waiting for signs, stops seeking permission, stops praying out of desperation, and starts walking with confidence, acting with conviction, and living as if the life they dream of is already happening. That's when everything starts to change. Not because the world changed, but because the frequency changed. And as a perfect mirror, life reflects that new vibration. Faith isn't about religion. It's the science of the soul, the unbroken vibration that speaks directly to the universe, and the universe listens. Chapter 7. The Quantum Leap in Disguise. No one ever prepares us for the moment when everything falls apart. One day, everything feels stable, and the next, what you thought was secure, your job, your partner, your health, vanishes. It's like the universe suddenly knocked down the pillars you've been building your life on. And right there, in that moment when it feels like there's no way out, the real journey begins. It's not punishment, it's not a mistake. It's a quantum leap hiding behind a crisis. Most people think when everything falls apart, it means they've failed, made a mistake, or lost something. But the truth is different. Nothing breaks without a reason. Nothing falls apart unless something better is about to take its place. Crises don't come to punish you, they come to set you free. Take a woman who, after years of marriage, wakes up one morning feeling empty. Her partner isn't the person he once was, and neither is she. There's tension, fear, and a sense that she can't keep going. What seemed like a tragedy, getting a divorce, ends up being her rebirth. She didn't lose a relationship, she gained her freedom. Or consider a man who has worked for years and suddenly gets fired. At first, he feels lost, worthless. But in that emptiness, he rediscovers a forgotten passion. He starts over and creates something he would never have imagined if he hadn't been forced to let go. Life doesn't take away what you still need. It clears the way so you can stop holding on to things that no longer fit your energy. But there's a big trap here, confusing a breakdown with failure. When something falls apart, we want to fix it right away. We hold on to the wreckage. We try to patch up what needs to be left behind, and in doing so, we block the real shift. The quantum leap doesn't come by trying to go back to the past. It comes from letting go, trusting, and surrendering to the chaos, knowing that it's rearranging things in ways you can't see yet. Jesus didn't try to escape the cross or fight his fate. He understood that after pain comes transformation, and what looks like an ending is just a new beginning. If what you call failure is really just the old version of yourself dying away, what is it that's letting go so you can be reborn? If pain isn't here to destroy you, but to push you toward growth, why do so many stay stuck in the ruins, holding on to relationships, jobs, or identities that no longer serve them? They stay stuck, not because life has stopped them, but because they're too scared to leave behind what's familiar. The comfort zone can be painful too, but it's a pain we're used to. A wise teacher once told his student, "Master, everything in my life is falling apart." The teacher calmly replied, "Who told you that's a bad thing? Maybe everything is finally falling into place." When life brings you to your knees, you have two choices. You can shatter, or you can open up, collapse, or awaken. And even though the pain feels unbearable now, remember this: the pain you feel today will be the reason you give thanks tomorrow. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Even when things seem wrong, even when you lose something, even in chaos, everything has a purpose. It will all make sense in time. The caterpillar doesn't know it's going to fly, it only knows its world is falling apart, that it's wrapped in darkness, and that it doesn't look the way it did. But if it endures, if it doesn't give up, it eventually spreads its wings. You're not being punished, you're being redirected. And when you finally let go of what you can't control, the universe will show you what it has always had in store for you. Not because the universe changed, but because you changed your energy. Chapter 8. Awakening is not an instant. It's a continuous decision. Some people think that spiritual awakening happens suddenly, like a lightning strike that changes everything in an instant. But the truth is different. Awakening isn't a one-time event. It's a journey. It's not about a sudden revelation. It's more like a quiet transformation that happens inside you, like gold forming under pressure or light breaking through a crack. The Kybalion says, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." So what does awakening mean in this context? It means understanding that reality doesn't just happen to us from the outside, it's created from within us. We aren't victims of fate or chance. We are emitters of energy, and each of our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs sends out a frequency that will eventually manifest in our lives. Many people say, "I'm on my spiritual path." But true awakening happens when you realize that you are the one creating your reality. Your outer world is simply a reflection of what's happening inside you. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and words are all the raw materials for this creation. If you don't pay attention to what you're mixing, the result will be chaos, not punishment. There are no rewards or punishments, just cause and effect, resonance, and vibration. Real spiritual growth starts when you decide to transform your shadows, not when you try to ignore them. The first law of the Kybalion tells us that everything begins as a thought. So, if everything in your life is a result of your thoughts, what are you thinking? What beliefs do you hold without realizing it? What image of yourself do you project into the world? Take a woman who has spent her life blaming bad luck, saying she's always deceived or never chosen, that life owes her something. One day, tired of telling the same story with different faces, she stands quietly in front of a mirror. She says nothing. She just observes and understands. She realizes that it wasn't the world against her. It was her own vibration of abandonment that attracted abandonment. Her awakening wasn't a dramatic divine moment. It was a simple, humble realization of her own role in creating her life. This is where true spiritual alchemy begins. Not when the candles are lit, but when your awareness is sparked. The Kybalion also teaches, as above, so below. As below, so above. This phrase holds the key to the entire universe. If you believe the world is hostile, you'll experience tension. If you think love is rare, you'll experience betrayal. If you believe money is hard to get, you'll struggle. But if you choose to vibrate as if you're already abundant, loved, and free, even without proof, the world will reflect that. This is spiritual alchemy. Not about turning lead into gold, but about turning your heavy, dense emotions into light. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens through daily choices. Awakening is about transformation, moving from fear to trust, from complaining to gratitude, from chaos to clarity. It's about stopping yourself from reacting and starting to create the life you want. True awakening isn't about how many books you read, how many rituals you follow, or how often you meditate. It's about your ability to face your shadows without fear. It's about your daily choice not to fall back into old patterns. The Kybalion also talks about the law of rhythm. Everything flows and changes. You'll have good days and bad days. Sometimes it might feel like you're going backward, but don't be hard on yourself. Each cycle has a purpose. Each setback is a chance to look deeper into yourself. Even the great alchemists failed many times, but they saw each mistake as a step closer to finding the right formula. Similarly, you're not failing if you stumble. You only fail if you choose to stay unconscious. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." But that truth isn't something found in a book. It's written in your own thoughts, and your freedom starts when you face them honestly. Many people want to awaken, but not everyone is ready to pay the price. The price of awakening is letting go of excuses, stopping the search for signs, and starting to be the sign. It's about letting go of the small, limiting version of yourself. and stepping into the version of you that owns its power with humility and certainty. Just as Hermes Trismegistus taught that the universe is a living mind, you too are a living mind, shaping the universe around you. There's no separation, no divine intervention making decisions for you, only you and the frequency you choose to hold. Awakening isn't a goal, it's a daily practice, the highest form of spiritual discipline, remembering every day that the entire universe moves within you, and each moment is an opportunity to create, transform, and grow. Do it not out of fear or to gain something external, but because you've realized there's no other way to live in truth. And if there's one certainty that can carry you through when everything feels uncertain, it's this: real change starts from within. Everything in the universe, as all the great teachers have said, is mind, vibration, and correspondence. You are the philosopher's stone you've been searching for. Chapter 9. True Faith. The invisible key to creation. Many people think faith is just for religious folks, that it's all about repeating prayers or blindly trusting in a higher power. But real faith isn't about words, rituals, or beliefs. Faith is a universal law, just like any other law of the universe. It either works or it doesn't. It's woven into the very fabric of creation. The Kybalion refers to it without directly naming it, but it's present in all its principles. So, what is it? The law of mentalism is faith in action. The law of correspondence is about the things we deeply believe, even without saying them out loud. Faith isn't the same as hope. Hope waits. Faith knows. Faith is looking at a tough situation and still holding on to the truth inside of you. It's walking on water without checking for solid ground. It's planting a seed in dry soil and watering it every day, trusting that something will grow, even if you can't see it yet. Jesus made it clear, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Do you know what that means? It means faith doesn't have to be huge or perfect. It just has to be real. A small, genuine certainty is all you need, and with that, everything else falls into place. But where does that certainty come from? It comes from deep inside your mind, where beliefs aren't just nice words, but the roots of your identity. That's why many people don't manifest what they want. They have faith, but it's misdirected faith. They have faith in their fears, in their limitations, in their inability. And that too is faith. What you believe is inevitable is what you create. The law of rhythm, another key idea from the Kybalion, says everything has cycles. Things go up, things go down. And when it feels like you're moving backward, that's when true faith is tested. It's not when everything's going well, but when reality hasn't yet caught up with your vision. It's easy to have faith when things are flowing. It's much harder to keep that faith when it feels like everything is stuck. That's when transformation begins, because true change only happens in uncertainty. A man lost everything: his money, his family, his health. He walked around feeling like life had turned its back on him. But one day, at his lowest point, an older woman told him something he would never forget. Faith isn't for when you can see the path. Faith is the light you create when everything is dark. That simple phrase didn't change his situation right away, but it changed his energy. And as the law of vibration teaches, nothing stays still. Everything is constantly moving and vibrating. Slowly, his life started to shift because he wasn't the same person anymore. He had replaced his despair with certainty. True faith isn't just a thought, it's a state of mind. And the universe responds to your state, not just your words. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have everything going against them, but they still move forward? It's not luck. It's because they hold an inner vision that doesn't break under pressure. They believe in their purpose, in their path, in themselves, and that's all they need. They don't need the world to confirm anything. They've already decided it within themselves, and life reflects that back to them. Spiritual alchemy shows us that to change our reality, we first have to change how we see it. But this is only possible if our faith stays strong. Even with your eyes closed, you need to see your dreams as if they're already real. The Kybalion explains that everything in the universe is mental, created by the mind. If you're part of that universal mind, then your mind can also create. And what you hold firmly in your mind will eventually show up in your life. But here's the big question. Where is your faith right now? Is it in your potential or your excuses? In your abundance or your lack? In your power or your fears? It's not that you lack faith. Everyone has faith. The question is, where are you putting it? A woman always said she couldn't trust anyone, that love was a game, that she always ended up hurt. And that's exactly what happened. Not because the universe was punishing her, but because her faith was placed in her wounds, not in her healing. And as the law of correspondence teaches, as within, so without, her life outside reflected what she believed inside. That's the power of faith. It's an invisible key that either opens the right doors or the wrong ones, depending on where you direct it. That's why the ancient sages talked about holding a vision. They knew the universe doesn't bend to wishes, it bends to strong vibrations. A convinced mind is more powerful than 1,000 desperate prayers. Faith to act is declaring your intentions. Faith to wait is acting with certainty. Faith isn't about looking at the sky. It's about igniting the sky inside you. And when your faith aligns with the laws of the universe, when it becomes how you live, everything transforms. Because you stop waiting for signs, you become the sign. That's the faith of the alchemists. That's the faith of the awakened. Chapter 10. The true power of the word. Decree is to create. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. These opening words from the Gospel of John carry deep meaning, though many read them without truly understanding their significance. This is not just a poetic metaphor. It's a powerful, often forgotten truth. Everything that exists was created through the Word. Not just spoken words, but the energy and vibration they carry. The Word is not merely sound. It's a force that organizes energy, that divides light from darkness, and that turns the invisible into the visible. The ancient sages knew this truth. The Kybalion says, all is mind. The universe is mental. But how does the mind move? Through the word. Every word you speak, every thought you think, is a decree. And every decree, when combined with emotion and certainty, becomes law. Ancient cultures understood this. In Egypt, words were considered magical tools. In Kabbalah, each Hebrew letter is seen as a vibration that shapes reality. In alchemy, the word is the fire that transforms unconscious thought into conscious creation. When someone says, "The same thing always happens to me," they are creating a never-ending cycle. When they repeat, "I never have enough money," they're making a decree. When they say, "I'm not enough," they're shaping their world to match that belief. These aren't just words, they are keys that unlock or close realities. But where do these decrees come from? They come from deep within you. A mouth that speaks of scarcity reveals a mind that believes in it. A voice that complains reflects a soul that has forgotten its own power, and each repetition strengthens that inner programming. In the Bible, Job said, "What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me." It wasn't divine punishment, but his own words anticipating it. Fear, when spoken, becomes a magnet. Doubt, when voiced, becomes a decree. Many people live trapped in their own words, not because the world is against them, but because they're constantly recreating the same reality with every word they speak. But there's another way, the path of the conscious word. This is the alchemist who speaks not just to speak, but with purpose and from an elevated state. Instead of saying, "I can't," they say, "I'm learning." Instead of affirming, "Life is hard," they declare, "Life unfolds in my favor," and the universe, like a perfect mirror, reflects that. The law of cause and effect, as taught in the Kybalion, is activated with every word you speak. And if your words are seeds, what kind of garden are you planting? A young man once said, "I have bad luck with everything." It wasn't just a complaint. It was his reality. Nothing flowed. Everything seemed difficult. One day, an old sage overheard him and said, "Your words are like ink in an invisible contract with the universe, and you sign it every day without even reading it." From that moment on, the young man began to speak differently, at first with doubt, then with belief. He changed his language, and with it, his life. It's not about repeating empty affirmations. It's about feeling the power behind your words. Every word you speak should have deep roots in your consciousness, and your tongue should no longer repeat what you don't want to experience. The ancient alchemists knew that before they could transform the external world, they had to purify their internal language. Because if the word creates, it can also destroy. Many people unknowingly destroy their happiness with careless words, with phrases spoken without thought, with decrees that the universe, as an obedient force, has no choice but to fulfill. Jesus also said, "It is not what enters the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of it." What comes out reveals your inner world, and that inner world is the blueprint the universe uses to shape your reality. Now ask yourself, what are you saying when no one else is listening? What phrases do you repeat to yourself every day? Do you speak to yourself as someone who loves themselves or as someone who doubts? It's not only about the words you speak aloud. It's also about the silent word, the one you whisper when things go wrong, the one that plays in your mind when you look in the mirror, the one that reinforces your old programming without you even realizing it. If you want to change your life, the first step isn't doing more, it's speaking differently. The Kybalion teaches that everything vibrates, and the word is pure vibration. The tone of your voice, the intention behind your words, and the emotions that accompany them all carry a specific frequency, and the universe, as a vibrational field, responds to that frequency, not to your wishes or pleas, but to what you truly emit. That's why the ancients spoke sparingly. They understood the power of their words and treated them with care, like a sacred fire. Today, however, we live in a noisy world. We speak without awareness, we repeat what we hear, and every careless word is an opportunity lost to create with intention. But you can return to the sacred word, to the inner language that builds, that blesses, that declares with power, not from need, but from certainty. When your word aligns with your highest vibration, alchemy happens. The world begins to reorganize. Closed doors open, the right people show up, and opportunities that once seemed impossible start flowing. Because you've spoken, and what you speak with certainty cannot be denied. Chapter 11. Gratitude as the alchemical key, the invisible gold of the heart. Not all treasures sparkle, and not all miracles come with a bright light. On the path of a seeker, there's a secret that most people miss. It's not taught in temples or sold in manifestation courses. It's simpler and more powerful, yet often ignored because it doesn't shout, demand, or impose. It simply whispers, true gratitude. This isn't the kind of gratitude that's mechanical or just repeating learned phrases. It's not gratitude said out of obligation, like a step in a recipe to get what you want. True gratitude comes from the heart, when your soul sees the hidden perfection in what already is. When you let go of expectations and realize that every moment, even the tough ones, is part of a greater design. The ancient alchemists understood that turning lead into gold was a metaphor for inner transformation. And among all the invisible forces behind that change, one quiet but essential force was gratitude. In spiritual alchemy, gratitude is the subtle energy that turns lack into abundance, fear into trust, and emptiness into meaning. But it's not enough to just say thank you when you wake up or make a list of what you're supposed to be grateful for. The universe doesn't respond to empty words. It responds to real energy. When gratitude doesn't come from a genuine place, it won't have an impact. The Kybalion's first law, Mentalism, says, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." If the universe is mental, then what you think with emotion and hold in your heart becomes your reality. This is where gratitude works as a powerful energy that reprograms the mind, not through ideas, but through vibration. When you feel real gratitude, the message you send out is clear. I have, I am, it is. From that feeling of certainty, your reality shifts. A sunbeam through your window, the smell of fresh coffee, a pain-free breath, the breeze on your skin, or even a stranger's smile. Each of these is pure gold when you see it with the right perspective. But the ego, always wanting more, doesn't pause to appreciate what it already has. It focuses on what's missing, what should be, and what hasn't shown up yet. And that's when dissatisfaction takes over. The law of correspondence, another Hermetic principle, reminds us, as within, so without. As above, so below. If you're filled with complaints inside, the outside world will give you more reasons to complain. But if you're grateful inside, the world will reflect that back to you with blessings. This isn't about being complacent. It's about understanding. When you truly appreciate what you already have, the universe knows you're ready for more. Not as a reward, but as a natural result of your energy. Like attracts like. This is the law of attraction in its purest form. There's more to spiritual alchemy. Gratitude is the magic that softens a heart hardened by disappointment. Nothing opens the channel to the divine like a grateful soul, because gratitude doesn't ask, it declares. In the Gospel of Matthew, before multiplying the loaves and fishes, Jesus gave thanks. He didn't ask or beg. He thanked as if the miracle had already happened. And then it did. That act holds a deep truth. To give thanks for what you can't yet see, but already feel as real, is the highest form of faith. Faith isn't just a prayer. It's a vibrational choice. It's knowing that everything is already done, as the law of mentalism says, and you just need to tune into it. True gratitude is the perfect way to tune yourself into that frequency. And those who are truly grateful don't just appreciate what they've received. They become a channel for what's yet to come. Genuine gratitude is the clearest signal your soul can send, and the universe always listens. So, quietly and humbly, those who live in gratitude become alchemists, powerful yet silent. Where others see scarcity, they see abundance. Where others complain, they bless. Where others wait, they already receive. Because they understand that what changes the world isn't struggle, effort, or control, but the energy you bring to each moment. Chapter 12. Fear, the illusion that chains the soul. Since we were kids, fear has shown up in many ways. Sometimes as a harsh scolding, other times as a threat of punishment, and often as a quiet voice saying, if you fail, people will reject you. If you change, you'll be alone. We grew up under an invisible spell, one that didn't need chains or locked doors to hold us down. All it took was planting fear in our minds, and we did the rest on our own. But the ancient wisdom of Hermetic teachings tells us something different. Fear is not real. It's an illusion, a shadow created by the mind when it forgets its true power. The Kybalion's law of mentalism states, the all is mind. If everything is mind, then fear is also a product of the mind, a thought that gets repeated, both inside and outside of us, until it feels as solid as anything else, even though it isn't. Spiritual alchemy teaches that the true gold is found within, and that the lead to be transformed is not our circumstances, but our state of being. The densest of these states? Fear. Fear is the lead of the soul. It blocks the flow of light, kills dreams before they even have a chance to grow, and forces us to live with the brakes on, even when life is calling us to fly. Fear isn't caution, it's a distortion, and like all distortions, it can be undone. How? First, by acknowledging its presence. Second, by recognizing that it doesn't come from the universe, but from separation. Third, by remembering the law of rhythm. Everything rises and falls, everything changes, nothing stays the same. Just like there are moments of darkness, there will always be moments of light. So, if fear seems to take over today, It's simply because there's something inside you that's asking to be illuminated. In the Gospel of John, there's a powerful statement. There is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Fear cannot survive where true love exists. And by love, we mean not romantic love, but love as consciousness. I am supported. I am guided. I am one with everything. That is true faith. Faith, as we've seen, isn't blind. It's active. It vibrates. It's the inner certainty that grows when we stop living out of fear and start living in unity with all that is. But this isn't about forcing fear out of your life or fighting against it. That just makes it stronger. It's about observing it, asking yourself, what story am I telling that keeps this fear alive? And then rewriting that story. This is where the law of polarity comes in. Everything has its opposite, and for every fear, there is courage. Courage doesn't mean you have no fear. It means you choose not to let fear control you. A brave person isn't someone who doesn't fear anything. It's someone who, even while feeling fear, chooses to act out of faith, knowing that fear is just a shadow of something they've created. And like all shadows, it disappears when exposed to light. Alchemy doesn't happen overnight. Just understanding something isn't enough. It must be lived out, and that takes time. Many people stay stuck in fear because they don't give it enough time to transform when they face it with love. Those who do, who dare to look their fear in the eye, find that behind it, there are no monsters, just forgotten parts of themselves that need attention. That's when transformation happens. The lead turns to gold, fear becomes a teacher, and the soul moves closer to freedom. For those who conquer their fear, they no longer need the world to change. They've already changed within. Chapter 13. Reality. Energy. Vibrating to the rhythm of your consciousness. For centuries, people have asked, what is reality? Philosophers searched for answers in books, scientists in formulas, and mystics in silence. But no matter the approach, they all came to the same conclusion. Reality isn't solid. It's energy. It's vibration. The Kybalion puts it clearly. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. If everything vibrates, then nothing is fixed. The chair you sit on, the wall in front of you, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, they're all made up of atoms in motion, of energy fields that create the illusion of form. If we accept this, we must also accept that reality isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create. And it's not just a nice idea, it's a fundamental truth of how the universe works. The law of mentalism reminds us, the all is mind. If everything is mind, then what we think and feel deeply shapes our reality. The ancient alchemists said it clearly, as within, so without. So the question isn't, what is reality? But, what are you creating with your vibration? If the world is made of energy, your consciousness is the tool that shapes it. The life you live is the art that emerges from it. This might sound like a lot of responsibility, but really it's freedom. You don't need to wait for the world to change or beg for miracles. You just need to work on yourself, raise your frequency, and watch how everything starts to shift. But be careful. Many people try to change their lives by focusing only on the surface, saying affirmations, visualizing success, or doing rituals, while deep down, they still vibrate with fear, lack, and self-deception. Real change doesn't come from trying to change what's outside. It comes from changing how you see things. True transformation is looking at something difficult, like debt, and feeling gratitude for the lesson it brings. It's facing a loss, and instead of feeling hopeless, knowing that something new is about to emerge. It's understanding that every challenge outside of you is just a reflection of what's shifting inside you. The law of correspondence says, as above, so below, as within, so without. The universe isn't chaotic, it's perfectly balanced. Everything falls into place when you align with yourself. In alchemy, you don't shout at lead to change it. You heed it, observe it, and guide it gently. The same goes for your emotions, beliefs, and patterns. They transform not by force, but by understanding. So, if you keep facing the same situation over and over in different forms, it's not punishment. It's a reflection. It's a sign to look within and ask yourself, which part of me is creating this? Not to blame yourself, but to take back the power you've always had. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." It's not some far-off place, and it doesn't come after death. It's here, now, and it's activated when you choose to live in the vibration that matches it. Miracles aren't accidents. They're the result of higher laws at work. When you raise your vibration, what once seemed impossible starts to feel natural, and the extraordinary becomes part of your everyday life. If your life feels off or out of balance, don't try to change the mirror. Change the image you're projecting. Raise your frequency, work on your thoughts, and watch how what once felt solid and unchangeable becomes flexible. What seemed impossible will open up. Reality isn't just what you see, it's what you are. And when you change, everything around you changes too. Chapter 14. Crises. Chaos. Before rebirth. Everything that hurts eventually transforms. What seems like a breakdown is actually a rearranging of your life. There are moments when it feels like everything is falling apart. The job is lost, a relationship ends, your health fails, or money slips away like sand through your fingers. In those times, the question arises, why me? But that question comes from a limited view. We think we're being punished, that we've done something wrong, or that life has forgotten us, when, in truth, it's the opposite. Crises don't come to destroy you. They come because an old part of you can no longer stay the same. Hermes Trismegistus, the father of spiritual alchemy, said, "Before something is elevated, it must be dissolved." Dissolution is painful. Yes, because it rips us from the familiar, even when that familiarity is full of suffering. But it's also the first step in every alchemical process. Chaos first, then transformation, and finally, rebirth. The law of rhythm, as the Kybalion teaches, shows us that everything moves in cycles. Nothing stays the same forever. The tide rises and falls. Day turns into night, and night turns into dawn. So why think that a dark phase is the end? Why believe that pain is forever? When something breaks, it's not always punishment. Sometimes it's the only way for your soul to free you from what you couldn't let go of before. Remember, the universe doesn't respond to your intentions, it responds to your vibration. If you've been asking for change, even if you haven't spoken it out loud, life will push you toward whatever is needed to align you with your desires. But change doesn't always come in the way you expect. Sometimes it comes as loss, loneliness, or collapse. Yet whenever something leaves, something greater is coming. Jesus hinted at this with a simple truth. No one pours new wine into old wineskins. You can't receive new things while holding on to the old. You can't move forward if you're still carrying the weight of who you used to be. Many see crises as setbacks or punishments, but the ancient sages knew better. Chaos isn't the enemy. It's the fertile ground where the new is born. In alchemy, this is called nigredo, the stage of complete darkness where everything breaks down, where there's no meaning or form. But in that darkness, transformation begins. Because when the ego can't provide answers, when the mask can no longer hold up, when the external world crumbles, the truth comes out. A portal opens, and if you're brave enough to walk through it, not resisting but surrendering, you'll find that on the other side, there isn't death, but rebirth. Most people don't take the leap. They cling to what's dying, trying to revive what's already gone. And that struggle only makes the pain worse. But there comes a moment, a spark, when the soul, tired of holding on to the unsustainable, says, "Enough," and you let go, and suddenly, you flow. In that moment, you realize it wasn't about losing control. It was about your soul finally taking charge. True security isn't in what you own, but in who you are when you have nothing. And right there, in that moment, true rebirth begins. After walking this path of self-awareness, there's no doubt we didn't come into this world just to survive. We came to remember, to awaken, and to take control of our own creation. We've learned that reality isn't about punishment or reward. It's a reflection. It's not about asking from a place of lack, but commanding from a place of certainty. Money, love, health, and opportunity don't respond to what we say we want. They respond to what we hold in silence, deep inside. We've realized that the universe doesn't conspire for or against us. It simply obeys. It obeys the energy, the vibration, and the inner state we carry in every moment. We've understood that affirming in fear is useless, and that visualizing abundance while feeling scarcity doesn't work. We've gone deeper. We remember what Hermes taught. The universe is mental, as within, so without. Everything is vibration, and whoever masters their mind masters their reality. Each of these universal laws is a step in spiritual alchemy, the art of transforming the lead of unconsciousness into the gold of inner truth. We're no longer slaves to a written destiny. We're not just pawns in someone else's game. We are alchemists. We are energy emitters. We are the cause behind every effect. And if you've made it this far, if something inside you is stirred, then this message was for you. Because there are no coincidences, and as you know, like attracts like. Now is your moment. Write a phrase below that will serve as a decree, a symbolic key for others awakening alongside you. I have full mastery over my consciousness. If any part of this message spoke to your soul, share it with others, because what is shared from the heart multiplies, and you might be the sign someone has been waiting for. If you want to keep learning about ancient spiritual teachings, like and subscribe. A conscious greeting to all.